celebration of Latine Ocean leadership. And I'm going to hand it over to Lori, and let's give her a round of applause.
Hey everybody, buenos días.
Buenos días.
Buenas tardes.
Buenas tardes.
Thanks for coming today. My name is Lorraine Iglesias, and I'm here to lead us on an interesting charla, which means an informal conversation. I just wanted to give you a little bit of context about the actual panel title, En Clave. En Clave can mean two things. One is a clue or key to a mystery or a puzzle. The other meaning for En Clave refers to a percussion instrument that is made of dense and resonating wood. And the claves are a fundamental ingredient in Latin percussion music. And literally, that's what keeps the groove going, and it keeps the musical conversation cohesive, dynamic, and engaging. So, in a way, having a good rhythm and having a good groove is what we're going to aim for today in our conversation in this charla. And this also metaphorically can mean the conservation movement that Latine people have been in, leading and participating, and it's not new. So I'm going to turn the mic over to Marcela Gutierrez Graudich. She is going to tell you about a film that she produced that we're going to all enjoy. And then after that, we'll all come out. We'll bring our little chairs into the spiked marks, the way Sage said we should. And then we'll carry on and have a good conversation. And with that, please give la bienvenida to Marcela.
Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for being part of this today. As Ana was just telling us, this is her first foray into having this type of specific focused celebration of Latino Ocean culture, Latine. And so, congratulations, you made it here. And again, thank you for supporting. And thank you so much, first of all, to the Ocean Film Festival, International Film Festival. So, what is this film? You're going to hear a little bit of music, or you might have heard it, music, which is how this all got started. That's how we have the musical connection there. Originally, this film was meant to be behind the scenes of the recording of that album, which you can find on Spotify. And once we actually got the filmmaker, his name is Azul, to start on that, he's like, well, listen, we're getting all these other ideas, and that kind of really got into our other work with Ocean Justice. And it went in a completely different direction, significantly more poetic and artsy, and very focused on the issues around ocean justice, which is something that Azul, and I haven't told you about Azul. Azul is an organization that was actually born here in San Francisco 15 years ago. We are an ocean justice organization focused on working with Latino communities to protect our blue planet. And this is our first celebration of our quince. And this film, I'm super excited for you to see it because it is such a great encapsulation of what our work represents. So this is the film that was supposed to be something else, and now it turned into something a lot more beautiful and poetic than a behind the scenes. Eventually we'll get to the behind the scenes, but thank you again so much for this, and with you, En Clave.
algo medio egoísta, un poco arrogante, se deja llevar por la soberbia cuando nombra las cosas. A algún ser humano se le ocurrió inventar el término la orilla del mar. y así repetimos la cosa. Una y otra vez, al mar lo hacemos el canalla responsable del fin de la tierra. Según la frase, la orilla pertenece al mar, entonces el mar margina, acaba, pone límite, y la tierra no tiene autonomía, solo puede existir a la merced del mar. En la reconceptualización del mar se encontró la configuración histórica de la experiencia y el itinerario diaspórico. La diáspora como categoría de identificación política, de memoria histórica, de vida colonial, imaginación cultural, tiene como espacio de articulación histórica el itinerario transoceánico. El mar, más que una barrera, es una metáfora de unificación, una forma de existir dentro de una dimensión relacional. La cantidad excesiva de dióxido de carbono emitida a la atmósfera está directamente relacionada con el aceleramiento de la revolución industrial. El cambio climático, como todo en la naturaleza, es una red compleja de efectos que no están únicamente presentes en el terreno firme. El océano también es parte de la Tierra. La acidificación es un ejemplo de esto y es un resultado directo del dióxido de carbono acumulándose en la atmósfera debido a la actividad humana. Cangrejo fue a estudiar, caballero, pero quizá no podrá hacerlo por mucho tiempo. Además de eso, los viajes que tomamos a playas remotas, áreas costeras de ecoturismo o misiones de descubrimiento no son más que prácticas mezquinas de autosatisfacción. ¿Acaso no saben que las personas que viven del mar se ven afectadas por la negación a dejar ir algunas de sus comodidades subjetivas definidas por el capitalismo y su naturaleza? Las comunidades marginalizadas, primordialmente negras, indígenas y racializadas, somos las más afectadas por las prácticas extractivistas del norte global. ¿Qué es lo que haces por el ambiente? Cangrejo corre para atrás y quiere ser pelotero. Ya lo dijo la gran Sonora Matancera, en el mar la vida es más sabrosa. Esbozo un nuevo cuadro para que no falle la idea, que la matanza de especies me enrojece las mareas y los derrames de petróleo al ecosistema tambalea. Estamos en el tercer beril donde ya nadie da pie. Me lo recitó un delfín y me hizo hincapié, que el fin de los de arriba es que seamos su basurero y no somos el depósito de nadie, que lo entienda el carnicero. Al hacer referencia al océano o el medio marino mundial, este es visto como un recurso más de la naturaleza, como un elemento de recreación o una fuente de agua que es necesario conservar, como lo establece la Organización de las Naciones Unidas en los Objetivos de Desarrollo Sostenible. No obstante, estos constituyen la base para la existencia de los seres vivos en general. Los océanos cubren el 70% de la superficie de la Tierra y son el hogar de alrededor del 80% de toda la vida en el mundo. Por tanto, es la biosfera más grande del planeta. De allí la importancia de repensar la forma en que este es visto y pensar en la idea de la convivencia armónica con el océano y la vida que está presente en él. El capitalismo como filosofía de muerte promueve la acumulación de capital y las dinámicas extractivas de recursos sin límite, donde el mercado es más importante que los seres humanos y por ende de los bienes comunes de la naturaleza. De esta forma, en el sistema neoliberal, los océanos se convierten en elementos para extraer recursos y donde se desechan residuos tóxicos y plásticos, producto de los absurdos patrones de consumo que pretenden mantener un insostenible libre mercado, que promueve el incremento de las desigualdades sociales y económicas y la crisis climática que se vive en la actualidad. Cuando calienta el sol aquí en la playa, siento tu cuerpo vibrar cerca de mí. En tiempos donde el cambio climático está aumentando la temperatura del Pacífico y otros océanos, hay una ironía trágica que se plasma en el sonido de esta canción sublime. climática nos afecta a todos. Tenemos la agencia para actuar ahora. El aumento en el nivel del mar trae consigo inundaciones garantizadas en hogares, desplazamiento y crisis de vivienda, además de inundar ecosistemas costeros y eliminar humedales. Podemos y debemos abogar por políticas que protejan al planeta, haciendo responsables a los agentes contaminantes que aceleran la crisis y ponen en riesgo la salud y seguridad de nuestra gente. El principal defecto que tienen la mayoría de los esfuerzos institucionales por la conservación ambiental es precisamente esta falta de reconocimiento de los procesos violentos de despojo que dieron lugar a la dispersión de prácticas dañinas como la sobrepesca. ¿Quién permitió que las naves industriales operaran junto con los pequeños pescadores? ¿Qué deben hacer estos si se termina su fuente de sustento? ¿Migran? ¿A dónde migran? ¿A qué trabajos pueden acceder? ¿Reciben un salario digno? Por otra parte, los esfuerzos institucionales reconocen la necesidad de respetar y recuperar las prácticas tradicionales de las comunidades pesqueras o pretenden imponer sus formas de conocimiento sin considerar el contexto en el que se encuentran, al igual que lo hicieron sus antepasados algunos siglos antes. La sobrepesca rompe el equilibrio, destruye relaciones complejas en los ecosistemas marinos, amenaza la existencia de muchas especies de flora y fauna y provoca desigualdad entre quienes subsisten y comercializan con el producto de la pesca. Para comenzar a reparar y sanar los espacios en los que esta práctica ha causado disrupción, es necesario partir de sistemas de conocimiento que se opongan a la intersección de opresiones que provocaron la devastación colectiva de las personas y la naturaleza. En síntesis, la clave de las formas de vida autosuficientes y sostenibles no son indescifrables. Se encuentran en el conocimiento tradicional de las comunidades, en las prácticas heredadas generación tras generación, en las historias y en las canciones que nos enseñan quiénes somos, pero sobre todo de dónde venimos. La jaivera se va y no volverá, y su partida requiere que hagamos uso de imaginación política radical que nos permita asumir y fortalecer la sustentabilidad comunitaria, reconociendo que la responsabilidad social no funciona de arriba hacia abajo. No existe responsabilidad social sin el reconocimiento de la deuda ambiental con las comunidades racializadas. Cualquier intento de sustentabilidad que ignore este hecho no hace más que reproducir aquellas narrativas coloniales de la administración del bienestar, siempre a expensa del empobrecido. ¿Quién tiene la facultad y el privilegio de retornar a su lugar de origen, regresar a los afectos y afinidades que construiste con tus seres queridos, con la tierra que te vio nacer? ¿Qué posibilidades existe a partir de la hora, dentro del curso de una vida mutilada, emprendiendo un viaje a nuevos sucesos no esperados? Como aquella canción de Roberto Cantoral, La barca. Hoy mi playa se viste de amargura, porque tu barca tiene que partir a cruzar otros mares de locura. Cuando la luz del sol se esté apagando y te sientas cansada de vagar, piensa que yo por ti estaré esperando hasta que tú decidas regresar. No hemos viajado solos, trajimos a nuestros ancestros, quienes transmitieron la medicina de la memoria, ancestros que nos dan recordatorios en donde somos más que el viento que nos trajo aquí. Nos recuerdan que de raíces sabemos, bebemos del agua fresca, que somos ceiba, anclados en la tierra, pero tocando el cielo. Ahí la playa quedó plateada y te marchaste por las adustas tablas del puerto, hacia una muchedumbre voraz que rompe piedras para alimentar vanidad. Grito esta urgencia de conciencia en ojos humanos. Tu desidia me convierte el alma en huracán desbocado que cura los arrecifes que matas. ¿Por qué te alejas de mí? En salitre entro a la ciudad, acaricio los rostros que te hacen. te busco, aúllo tu nombre en calles viejas, en montañas frutales, en bailes de guapango y son. ¿Dónde estás? Tragué orillas, hice deltas, golfos y bahías sin encontrarte. Aquí estoy, horadando litorales, preparando el reencuentro de tus manos con tu espíritu en tierras de islas, tierras continentales, tierras de mar. En Punta Arenas espero. El día 2 de febrero es que celebramos a Yemayá y todas sus bonanzas. Miles de mujeres negras han resignificado los elementos principales de este texto: el mar, las playas y su propia existencia en una sociedad estructuralmente racista. Esas mujeres negras que visten de blanco y saludan a Yemayá con flores y presentes entenderán que el mar es su dueña en su contexto más puro. Entidades de culto que deben ser celebradas. El océano para ellas es un recinto de paz, regocijo, descanso y placer. Sin sus playas, un lugar como Brasil quedaría descaracterizado de facto, pero la verdadera y mayor belleza de nuestra tierra tropical es la lucha y la resistencia de nuestro pueblo. La construcción del Canal de Panamá, proyecto primero tomado por los franceses y luego por los gringos, que significó muertes masivas a causa de enfermedades como malaria, fiebre amarilla, y por uso de explosivos para abrir paso en la tierra, consecuencia de la intervención en las selvas húmedas que conectan la provincia de Colón, que es el Caribe y Atlántico, y la provincia de Panamá, que se ubica en el Pacífico. Estos ejemplos de prácticas de extractivismo marcaron las pautas por las que hoy podemos ver a cientos de poblaciones marginalizadas y despojadas de sus territorios para beneficio de la blanquitud. Las políticas de turismo y de megaproyectos de hidroeléctricas, como el de Barro Blanco, contra la población Nove Buglé. Los despojos en las islas de Pedro González y San Miguel, o la prohibición de las zonas costeras como las del barrio del Chorrillo y San Felipe, que bajo procesos de gentrificación se negó el uso del mar, que constituía una fuente de ingresos económicos, de conexiones culturales y espirituales, de construcción de la propia identidad y la cercanía. Grupos de pescadores que se embarcaban en alta mar, las procesiones a los santos en el mar, las ventas de comida callejera que venían del mismo, los momentos y espacios lúdicos de los peladitos que se lanzaban a nadar aún con la marea alta, pero que se conocían ya el swing de las olas. Vamos a sumergirnos en nuestro mar inherente, en la inmensidad del océano de nuestra genealogía. Los yabás que nos guían por el camino amatorio, sanando las piezas de nuestro pasado roto, reconciliando raíces, las que setearon la ruta, la rebelión del ser nuevo. En esta playa abrazamos nuestros cuerpos, honramos a las Marías. En nuestro linaje brilla nuestra piel negra, en el sol incendiario de la diáspora, sonriendo el sabor explosivo de la liberación. Brisa de arena, viento fresco, acatar con ternura, Yemayá, nos hace uno con el Atlántico, tan valiente como Anacaona. Nuestras almas negras y espíritus marrones hacen de esta isla una playa colorida que empodera. Dicen que el mar da para muchas cosas, de procesos, diálogos y figuras retóricas, a capítulos de 1.000.000 de historias tangibles que surcan cada detalle de las huellas dactilares en los universos diaspóricos. El océano personifica un mediador despachatado que atestigua cada instante y regula la complejidad del tiempo en sí mismo. La ambivalencia es su constante predilecta, capaz de darnos vida y tortura en la misma ecuación sin reparo, fuente de júbilo, matriz de sanación, puente interconectivo, madre espiritual, botín de esperanza y a su vez tormenta que nos absorbe bajo el miedo al desarraigo, a la puerta del no regreso, a la falta de un pisar firme, aunque su certeza sea pírrica. Qué mejor catalizador de penas y proveedor de goce que el vaivén de un mar que nos bautiza, sana y limpia sin el prejuicio social que nuestra subjetividad posee, a través de este bate que bate, percusivo impecable y la exquisitez de esta ciencia musical. El mar no es la separación, no es el fin de la tierra, no margina. He excusado el mar de todo tipo de culpa, pero no lo he hecho por una admiración somera que tengo para el mar. Lo hice porque el mar, aunque represente la alegría para uno y el miedo para otro, es la verdad un verdadero espacio de origen. Cuando nos toca entender el mundo, siempre volvemos a la verdad, y la única verdad objetiva que existe es la de la naturaleza. Volvemos a mirar a la señora Canosa, que anda con la vejez como si fuera una corona. Unos la llamamos libre, otros la llaman loca, pero no importa, se deja envejecer. A ella no le teme la inteligencia que posee su cuerpo. Si el mar no es lo que margina, es entonces lo que constantemente unifica, devuelve y desmiente. Maferefun Yemayá, Maferefun Molokun.
Ingredient that keeps the music going, but that was the underlying foundation for this beautiful 20-minute, almost meditative piece about what it means, what does ocean mean to cultures. The ocean has no borders. The ocean does not know any borders. What is ocean culture? What is an ocean origin story? We all have ocean origin stories. Who gets to be a conservationist? What is that label? You're talking about, like, what talent can you bring to the movement? And a lot of people say, well, what do you mean talent? Sometimes that feels very exclusive. So this film really represented and showed how important it is to understand the different dynamics of the ocean conservation movement. And from the Latine perspective, we're going to talk a little bit today about those questions. What is ocean culture? What does that mean? You know, what is an ocean origin story? How did these wonderful individuals get to be where they are in the ocean movement? And then we'll just do a little open-ended conversation. So with that, I want to explore a little bit, and each individual will introduce themselves and tell a little bit about themselves before they dive into these topics. So we want to start with Sebastian Nickel. Nichols, excuse me, and we're going to talk about the ocean origin story. So if you can tell me a little bit about your ocean origin story.
Thank you so much, Lorraine. Thank you, Anna and Lorraine, for the opportunity to be here, and for that amazing film, Marcia, and all your leadership with Azul, an incredible organization that's connecting people to the ocean. I think, for me, my origin story, I'm Sebastián Nichols. I'm from Colombia originally. Grew up throughout South America, living in Guatemala, Chile, Brazil, and in those places I had the great, privilege and good fortune to spend time next to the ocean. In Chile, I remember we'd be at this beach beach town called Cachagua, and see a colony of Humboldt penguins just 300 meters into the ocean from the coast there. And I just became fascinated with the beauty of wildlife and what were they doing when they're jumping in the water, and had this kind of magnetic draw to spending more time next to or in the ocean, seeing, learning about it, and wanting, once I realized how threatened it was, to be a part of taking care of it. And I think that feeling and the chance that I was able to have those experiences throughout South America. I snorkeled on my first coral reef in Colombia when I was 8. I thought it was the most beautiful thing that I had seen, and learned very quickly that even by that time, the Caribbean had lost 50 to 75% of the coral cover that once was there. I thought, this is an urgent crisis and people aren't talking about it. But I think the connection to the ocean came from culture. Right? The film showed beautifully the connections of the Afro-descendants and their worships of Yemaya. That's, a through line through all of South America, and how impacted those countries were, and what a big part of our history is tied into, that probably the worst crime against humanity in history of slavery and subjugating the indigenous people and so on. But that kind of connection to the ocean, from those cultures, from the Afro-descendants, from the native peoples, I think really is a core part of Latine identity. It's in our music, it's in our poetry, it's in our, I talked about my origin story being from Chile, seeing the penguins. Pablo Neruda's poetry and beautiful portrayals of the ocean is part of that, and that links us all to the ocean. So hopefully I didn't go too long
Yes,
for that.
absolutely. Thank you so much for that beautiful recounting of your personal history and your ocean origin story. I also wanted to keep reminding people that Latine Ocean leadership is not a new movement. It's been around for a long time, and it's just perhaps not been quote unquote formalized or given a label by another group, but that leadership has been there for a long time. And I also wanted to remind people, in case Marcia didn't, say that Azul is turning 15 years old, and that's another cultural milestone. That's the quinceañera milestone, so that's an important coming of age time for individuals, and it is so for Marcela's organization as well. So Anna, let's talk a little bit about, first introduce yourself. I think most people know who you are, but tell us your ocean origin story.
Thank you so much, and thank you all for being here. Thank you for our audience, and for Lorraine, Marce, and Sebastian. I'm the Executive Director of the International Ocean Film Foundation. I've been doing this for 15 years. This is our 23rd annual celebration. And, our goal is to protect, restore, and celebrate places around the world in connection with our ocean. And education is the basis of what we do. So we see these films that we show, the panel discussions that we have, as a form of education outreach and getting folks more involved in ocean leadership and ocean stewardship. So that's essentially who we are. And my origin story for the ocean is, my dad is from Lima, Peru, and I grew up in Houston, Texas. He was in the oil business, and we used to go to Galveston, if anybody's ever been to Galveston, Texas, and the water was brown, right, and it was kind of murky and whatnot. When I was 11, we moved to Peru. My dad had an opportunity to work in the oil business in Peru, and he is one of 10 kids in his family, and he really wanted us to meet his family. So we went, we were there for 1 year. I was 11, my older sister was 13, and my younger sister was 3. And we moved and we got to know so much of the family. It was my first time seeing the Pacific Ocean. We came back, my dad sat my sister and I down, my older sister, and he said, okay girls, we have to make a family decision. And I'll never forget because I thought, oh my God, this is so important. You know, he wants to know what I want to do. And he said, we can live in Houston or we can go back to Lima, Peru. And my older sister and I just looked at each other and we just started laughing because we thought we had so much fun living in Peru. We had such a huge extended family and learned so much about the culture that was a part of who we were or who we are. And in that, we would go to the beach almost every weekend. We would go to the ocean, go to the Pacific Ocean, up and down the coast of Peru. We'd go camping. And for me, the ocean in that context was always joy. It was always family. It was always connection to the, you know, to the marine life that existed. It was ceviche on the beach every time we went, you know. And a lot of celebrations took place on that beach, a lot of discovery. My biggest regret is that I didn't learn how to surf in Peru because that would have been ideal. But I spent a lot of time in, on, and near the ocean when I lived there. And I miss it dearly. It's warmer water, obviously. But and from that, I just learned to appreciate it. Did a lot of research. There's a couple of marine protected areas there. Trying to learn more about what the government's doing. Paracas is a beautiful town south of Lima, which is where there's protected areas. It's gorgeous. But really up and down the coast, it's just magical. And so now here in my role with the film festival, I've carried that on to being a certified scuba diver. Thanks to Sylvia Earle, she encouraged me to do that. I learned to sail here on the San Francisco Bay, so the ocean has always been a part of my life, always will be, and being able to do this and show films from around the world is what I find so exciting. And we get a lot of films from Latin America, from all over the world really, but it's the ones that I see from Mexico, Colombia, Guatemala, Chile, you know, wherever, that really resonate with me. And when I was talking to Marce about doing this, I said, you know, we need to talk about Latino leadership in ocean conservation. So, thank you.
Thank you, Ana. And again, defining what is leadership, because there are certain cultures that define leadership as X, Y, and Z, and that may not dot back very neatly to what leadership may mean in another culture. So it's important to understand those nuances, and sometimes not so nuanced. And for that, I'm going to turn over to Marce because she has done a beautiful job of addressing those very issues. So and I know a little bit about her ocean origin story. Our paths have connected for many, many years when I was at the Monterey Bay Aquarium, and she was just starting her organization. But I always enjoy hearing your story, so please share it.
Well, thank you so much again for being here. So I was born and grew up in a small town, which is part of a large city, called Clave in Tijuana. I was born and grew up 2 blocks from the ocean and 2 blocks from the border with the US. So if you look at a map, it's literally that corner, which we affectionately call the Esquina Latinoamérica, so the corner of Latin America. I didn't realize how big of a deal that was until later on, because you're really marked by these hard borders that people don't quite necessarily understand while you're there. Also grew up going bodyboarding and all this stuff. And at the same time, one of my earliest memories, I mean, I must have been 2 or 3, is falling asleep to the sound of crashing waves. Like I had a straight view from my bedroom to the Pacific, because it was 2 blocks away before they built it up. And home to me smells is literally a mix of salty ocean breeze and my mom's night blooming jasmines. So like it's very much like a place for me, like visual, just all, yeah, visceral and olfactory, etc. I will say that I would be remiss if I didn't talk about how I also have generations of people before me that are rooted in the ocean. My grandfather, so I'm first generation immigrant on one side and probably like fourth on the other one, or fifth. And on my grandfather, on my dad's side, his first job when he immigrated to the U.S. was actually working at the docks in San Diego. And my dad was in the Navy as a young person, and my uncles, etc., they all worked at the shipbuilding company. So it's really interesting because there's a third generation of like ocean related. There's not more before that because they lived in the Highlands, but you know, there's if you look at our family history in San Diego Bay, like there's all parts of San Diego Bay that we've sort of like covered. I myself came to conservation from fishing, so I used to do logistics for a bluefin tuna farm. That's how I got into conservation. So I love the ocean, like it was something there, but like something you take for granted, kind of, right? My mom had a little bit of like activism, well, a big part of activism and when I was young that I saw. But, you know, you see the ocean, it's so big and bold and like, you don't think that there's anything wrong with it. And I think like we all agree that that's part of what we're trying to change, right? And it wasn't until I saw the changes as a logistics operations person for a, you know, tuna, salmon farm, etc. And you're having to find 200 tons of sardines every day to feed the tuna. Mm-hmm. And then you're going further out, you're spending more on fuel, you're sending more boats, and it's just not there, mm-hmm. right? And that's where I was like, holy smokes. Mm-hmm. And that's how I came over to conservation. So that's like a, you know, 30-year story of I had to end up here.
From the night blooming jasmines and the sounds of the waves crashing to looking for how many sardines?
Oh, like 200 tons of like fresh sardines
how often
a day.
A daily?
Yeah, well, so they're yeah, so they catch the tuna and then they fatten it for a couple months, and during this time they have to eat, and they don't get fed pellets because it's, you know, if you've ever seen the news and they come up with the like, this one fish went for $500,000 and this and that is that fish that we had, and so there's a whole like palette for it. So I would get calls like, oh, you gave it too much like anchovy or this or that. So like you have to take care of that because there's a whole terroir to it as well, right? So yeah, and that's how I saw it.
So thank you for that. I don't think I knew about the 200 sardines daily. I want to talk a little bit about ocean culture and what does that mean to us? Because I heard Marcia say a lot of people think ocean culture is the Beach Boys. Yes,
and
that's,
it is, but not just that.
and it's true, but it's not just that. And that's the conversation about Latine leadership is really recognizing the different facets of what ocean culture is. And of course, this film really did a beautiful job in showing a little bit, no, a lot about that. So love to hear from the panelists about what you think ocean culture means to you, and what do you think society thinks about ocean culture? Anna, we'll start with you, especially if giving your role as executive director of the Film Foundation.
You know, it's interesting, ocean culture. This is a festival that's in competition, so all the films that we receive, we review, and we give them awards. And one of the categories, there's probably 10 categories, is coastal and island cultures. And what does that mean? That means people who are living along the ocean, who get their sustenance from it. It's their economic viability from the ocean. And this can be all over the world in many different countries. And it's my favorite category of film because it's essentially you're going around the world through film. You're meeting people whose livelihood depends on the ocean, and it comes in so many different ways, whether it's in fishing or in diving. We just saw a film earlier today called Replanting a Garden about Jamaica, and it's about coral reef restoration. And there's endless films like that we have seen. So for me, and you know, growing up in Peru, I always had like the surfer dude friends, and surfing is a big part of ocean culture, right? It's how people connect to the ocean. And like I said, it could be in so many different ways, whether it's surfing or fishing or swimming or even just resting. Or, you know, sometimes people tell me all the time they are having a difficult day and all they want to do is go and sit next to the ocean. And, you know, they feel healed, they feel cleansed. So for me, I think from what I've seen and the impact that the films have, the stories that we've seen through the films, ocean culture is just how humans relate to the ocean and the impact that it has on them and what they take away from that too, what they learn about themselves and how they can understand the ocean better by learning about it, all the marine life and the issues, the key issues that we need to address about the ocean. So it's kind of a broad term, if you will, that's kind of hard to define. But from what I've experienced, I think it's just how we as humans interact with the ocean and what we get from it and what we give back to it as well. So.
Thank you, Anna. It is hard to define what ocean culture is. I like to think about it in addition to how you described it or a profession or how people relate to it. Is really how you can express yourself in the most genuine way possible. Can also be ocean culture through music, which is a powerful connector. So, Sebastian, tell us about what do you think ocean culture means?
Yeah,
especially in your role in the work that you have been doing with all the different organizations.
Thank you, Lorraine. And yeah, I think I messed up in my introduction, but I work now on conservation marine protected area campaigns with a large nonprofit. And part of the way that I got into that, as I was sharing, was because there is a strong ocean culture connection from South America, and part of that is you know, being connected and learning about people in the ocean conservation space that have made a splash. You know, I think of people like Cristina Mittermeier, photographer from Mexico, Sandra Azul from Colombia that started a movement to protect Malpelo and other ecosystems, and you know, so many others that are connected and have dedicated. And to be, you know, very honest, part of my finding a pathway into ocean conservation was seeing those examples of people that had a lot of affinity or in common with me, that had charted that path, which I think doesn't feel natural for people from, you know, with a background from Latin America. And especially for me, as a son of immigrants, where my parents came to the United States for better economic opportunity, and the idea of working for a nonprofit or in something that's not business had some
Not
resistance.
a doctor, a lawyer, or...
Exactly, right? All these sacrifices we made for you to go. And they are very supportive now, and I'm very lucky to have them. But that was a part of my journey, was seeing that connection and feeling that connection. And I think that is, for me, what ocean culture is in Latin America. You know, there's so many divisions, socioeconomic identity, and the beach, the ocean was the great democratizer. You know, you're leaving behind, no one's seeing your baggage or the, you know, net worth or whatever. Everyone's the same at the beach and can connect and enjoy that unity of sharing the ocean. And that's a beautiful thing. And there's so many deep connections from Latin America. Poets like I was mentioning, Pablo Neruda, Jose Martí, musicians, right, from native Colombia. Shakira and Carlos Vives are from the coast, and I think all the rhythms from the ocean and the peoples that found their home there are embedded into that, and that's a big part of it. And beyond that, the kind of deep connection and relationship that goes both ways with the ocean. I think of in Brazil is often excluded from Latin America, but I think it's an important part of it. And in the very south end of Brazil, there's a community of fishermen that fish collaboratively with bottlenose dolphins. The dolphins will come along this place where the river goes out to sea and signal to them when to throw their nets, because the dolphins are herding the mullet towards them and tell them when's the moment, and the dolphins catch more and the fishermen catch more. So I think that's an example. It's a reciprocal relationship.
The truest
that
ocean
connects
culture
people.
that there can be.
Exactly.
That's the truest expression. That's a beautiful story. Thank you for sharing that. Marce, I'd love to hear from you about ocean culture. However, if you can add or amplify a little bit more about that notion of colonialism and how we were talking about it back in the green room, about how can someone get more involved? What's your talent? What's your skill? And again, sometimes those simple words, what's your talent and what's your skill? If you're to ask me, I think like, oh my God, a talent and a skill, I don't know. And I'm sure I have some, right? I'm here moderating this, but somebody had to tell me that I could do this. So I want to talk to you, or talk with us, please, about how a simple change in mindset can really unleash that empowerment in individuals coming together and labeling themselves leaders, Latine leaders in ocean conservation. So if you could please talk a little bit about that, it's fascinating for me.
So yes, let's be very, very candid here. And if you get to know me, you'll know that I don't have any other mode to talk. But the ocean movement, as successful as it has been, is inherently, or has been historically, very elitist. We are, okay? Many conversations to be had about that, but I think it has been very elitist. I think that we need to do significantly better relative to the outreach and mobilization, etc. And just to give you an example, just a very concrete example, if you want to be an ocean policy leader in the US, the most recognized path is to have to be part of what is called the Canals Fellowship. And that is a fellowship that is only open to people that are graduating from a graduate degree. So now imagine the amount of people that cannot access that because they don't have the opportunity, the understanding, etc., to get there. And those are the folks that get to be the policy leaders in the US for ocean policy, that go on to staff legislators, that go on to lead organizations, etc. And it's a fabulous program, and it's changed quite a bit lately, but at the same time, that is a very small funnel of who we are reaching out to. And so
It's US-based primarily, would you
yes,
say?
yes. And also it's US-based, and it's very limited to what immigrants or non-US citizens can even participate in that, based on all of that. So it's a very small funnel, and I always wondered, why are we making our groups so small, right? So Azul started because at some point when I moved from fishing conservation, I worked for another organization working on marine protected areas, and we were designing the protected areas in Southern California. And it was a working group of more than 60 people that were actually putting the lines on the maps and negotiating and all this. And this is an working area that encompassed Los Angeles, which is one of the largest Spanish-speaking cities in the world, okay? Literally in the world. And there was more than 60 people there, and I was the only Spanish speaker. And there was no materials, there was no anything. I didn't know anything. I was 20-something. I had no idea anything about equity. This is the early aughts. I didn't know equity. We didn't know anything about diversity. Yes, but very... And all I could think of was wait, who's talking to my mom? How is my cousin hearing about this? Who's going on audition? How are we getting that out? Because they were having events at private yacht clubs, outreach events, and then they're people don't Latinos don't care because they're not coming in here. And I'm You're having an event at a yacht club on a Tuesday morning at 10:30.
That's one part of us ocean culture. That's a very narrow view.
Yes, that like, and so, you know, it's not malicious or anything like that, but we tend to go to what we know, right? And so in my mind, I kept trying to figure out, like, how do we make this more accessible? And so one of the things when I eventually started Azul, going back to the cultural part of it, is that I would tell people what I would do. Like, you know, whenever I explain to people what I do in Spanish, half of the time, I kid you not, half of the time people will sing to me. They'll sing, they'll respond with singing, and they'll say, en el mar la vida es más sabrosa. Half of the time when I tell someone what I do in Spanish, for the first time, they're like, en el mar. So it's like,
In the ocean, life is more delicious.
and this is a 1950 standard song. Okay, this is so like if you were to say the American standards, this is very much part of like the 1950s Latin American standards. And I kept thinking about how people were so related to that through music, and how we could do like how we could overarch and like kind of like transcend these ideas of like who gets to be in here. And the quickest way was always music. Like, how do I telegraph people that this is for them? Like, how do I put that bat signal out there that we started Azul, like, this is a thing, this is for you, that you're welcome, and it's always culture and music, and it's always not just like, I love the Beach Boys, but it's not just the Beach Boys, it's also Toto la Mamposina, singing about Colombia, singing in Pescador about a fisherman, or it's Celia Cruz talking about a jaidera, or it's all these music, and that's where we need to expand ocean culture.
Signal,
Continue this.
signal.
It's a telegraph signal.
It's a telegraph signal to say, hey, you're
You're
welcome
included.
here.
It's about you.
Yeah. So thank you for that. I mean, that is a simple but not so simple approach, right? I think my next question, and I'm not sure where are we, what time, I just want to make sure. Okay, great. Who gets to be a conservationist? Not only that, who gets to be a conservationist, and then how can somebody be a conservationist? So I know you had those questions, Anna. Tell us about, like, who gets to be a conservationist and how can someone get involved?
You know, that's a good question. I think anybody could become an ocean conservationist. I mean, I had a career, I studied economics, I had a career in investment banking, and I made the switch to this for my passion for the ocean. Not a marine biologist, and now I'm a filmmaker. I made a film recently, and it's all about ocean conservation. So anybody could become an ocean conservation, in my opinion. And one thing I want to add before we go to questions, you know, the film festival attracts a lot of people, a lot of young people. I get so many young people who are starting their careers as marine biologists, or they just want to get involved. And what I would like for us down the road in the next 5 years is to be a place where Latinos or any community, any person of any background can come, meet other folks that they can identify with, and find opportunities to become ocean conservationists. People who are trying to find careers, get their careers started. Every year we get young people who are looking for connection, they're looking for community, and they're looking for a network, they're looking for learning opportunities, and that's what we're able to provide. And people from all walks of life. In fact, it just brings me joy because back in 2017, I think it was, Sebastian walked in the door of the film festival, and he was that person. He was looking for community and connection and wanted to become better at ocean conservation. And here we are, fast forward, and he's an accomplished professional in his career. We're friends. We have a lot of other Latin friends in our community. But I'd love to see the festival be that beacon of hope for a lot of folks who are looking for representation and looking for community, because we are all ocean conservationists. We can all be ocean conservationists.
That's right, thank you. It's a label, and no one, you don't have to wait for somebody to ascribe that label to you. You can embrace that label yourself because you're doing You're making tamales for an ocean fundraiser at the beach.
I once had a
If I'm
group-
making tamales,
Yeah.
that counts.
Yeah, no, of course. I once had a group of like abuelitas in East LA that organized a novena, which is 9 days of praying the rosary for the ocean, because they couldn't come and
See?
speak for MPAs.
They're
so they're
conservationists.
like, we're gonna do a novena for the ocean. I'm like, yeah, that's
Do it.
Well, that's the powerful intersection of faith and environmental stewardship. That's again another intersection.
and
of-
moral authority.
And moral authority. So, I mean, there's so many different ways to be an ocean conservationist and to be a leader in that movement. The ladies praying the novenas, they're leaders in their community. They don't have MBAs, they may not have MBAs or be policy decision makers, but they're making decisions in their community. And they're praying the novena for the ocean. I love that. That is another great touch point, intersection of faith, environmental stewardship, and culture. So I just want to make sure that we touch on Sebastian and Marcia before we close it out on who gets to be a conservationist and how. What's the next? I want to close with her. So let's give me your point of view.
Thank you, Lorraine. I think about it very similarly to Anna. Anyone that feels connected and cares for and wants to be good stewards. That can take many forms. It can be artisanal fishers in the community of Juan Fernandez that we have both been to that started, self-regulating their fishery to ensure sustainability. Yeah, over 100 years ago. I think the first regulations were 1870 and have been, really advocating for strong conservation in their waters. But I think there's the exclusionary nature of conservation institutions, a complex history in which conservation has been tied to pushing people out of spaces or taking away traditions. And so many people might not feel that they can identify with the term conservationist. And I think that's something that we have to work to expand the definition, both change how we approach conservation to be inclusive and put those people at the forefront, the coastal fishermen or the people that are just enjoying the ocean. I think there tends to be people think of ocean culture or ocean stewardship, and often fishing comes up as the first thing, but those are, for me, one of the really important things is actually all of us who use and benefit from the ocean's ecosystem services and the joy and the mental health benefit that it has to go there and the community building part are just as important stakeholders, if not more, than the people that are taking out from the ocean. So ideally, I think everyone that has a connection to the ocean, that cares for it and connects around it and wants to be a better steward, gets to be an ocean conservationist, but we have work to do to make sure that that's the case.
Love that. I'm going to say amen to that, like the novena ladies. I'm going to close it out with you, Marcia, because you have a definitive answer to who gets to be a conservationist and what can somebody do to take steps towards becoming one, a call to action.
So I'd say todos, which means everybody. But, I think that, so Azul is very focused on policy outcomes, on creating laws. And the reason why is because for me, laws are tools in a toolbox that you can make happen. So there is a myriad of other approaches. We're a very small organization, that's our way, right? But at the same time, those laws are what gives you procedural equity, what gives you standing. For example, here in California, having the Coastal Act, which is turning 50 years, turning 50 this year, that gives you, the citizen, the resident, avenue to go and speak and advocate on behalf of the ocean on the same level as a millionaire, billionaire, etc. So like those tools, wonky, are also very important. And so I really focus on that, and what I think that we need to, and we're getting significantly better, is opening up those spaces. And so that's where Azul has been doing a lot of that work. I've many times have been the only one in the room, and one of the things that that I don't like to do is to come back and do the same thing. So I am montonera, which means that I like to come back with a ton of people. So 2 weeks from now we have Ocean Day California, which is our annual lobby day in Sacramento, which we are all invited to. And this is the date, April 28th, Sacramento. And you can go to Ocean Day California for that, or you can go to our website, azul.org, and we'll have that information for you. And, you know, something that started there when I first started Azul is nobody in our ocean movement at Ocean Day was like bothering to even visit anybody in the Latino caucus. I don't know why. And so I would go around and visit 25 like offices in one day, right? Just because like I just wanted to make sure somebody was talking to them. And the next year I'm like, no, I can't do this anymore. So I like invited my roommate and all my friends, and I made these little pins called it said Latinos Marinos. And you would have thought that it was 100 of us showing up, but it was 7. And that's how it started. Eventually it did get to be 100 people of Latinos Marinos coming to Ocean Day, which like entirely changed the makeup of Ocean Day. It was all of a sudden like very much representative of California.
It felt like a party, I'm
It
sure.
felt like a party. But the thing is that like people see themselves represented, and they see that permission, especially like Sebastian was talking about. Like, I didn't know my job existed when I was 15. I had no idea this was like a job, right? And so then you're starting Azul, and I remember, so this is a very surreal moment for me, because like I remember looking up the Ocean Film Festival, and I saw your name, and this is how I know that you've been here for 15 years, because I remember seeing your name, I'm like, oh my God, her last name is Blanco, maybe she's Latina. And it was like, okay, I'm not that crazy, right? Or you see like Lorraine, who's like also a trailblazer in this work, and I'm like, oh my God, maybe I'm not so crazy. So like sometimes when it's such a departure for you, or it's not as comfortable, like we need to make those opportunities available. And one of the things that I tell people about Azul is that we're translating, but not to Spanish. We're translating opportunities, okay? So like my job is to make it easy so that the person that has 3 kids, you know, aging parents and a job can take 20 minutes a week to do something for the ocean. And that's where we need to like work more in creating those opportunities.
Ocean friendly actions.
Yeah, exactly.
Ocean friendly actions.
Everybody can be, so
Yeah. So that's an invitation for all that are in this room here. April, tell me again.
28th, Sacramento, California.
And azul.org.
Yeah, azul.org.
To get information. I also want to say that Marce is the vice chair of the California State Coastal Conservancy. And that's also an important table where community members
Yes.
can show up and express opinions and just learn what is happening with coastal politics in this state.
And direct resources in a very direct, in a very time expeditious way to protect the areas of the state, of the coast that you care about the most.
Yeah, so an invitation for all you don't have to be a Latine person, you can still go to azul.org,
Yes.
please, because it's all about inclusion and belonging and welcoming and making ocean leadership, ocean conservation accessible to all. And so by the fact that you're here, by the fact that you're attending this festival, by the fact that you're leading with curiosity, you want to learn more, you're here, this all makes you a conservationist already. And so for that, I want to thank you for taking time, for being here. I don't think we have a Q&A section, right, panels?
I think we can.
Do we?
Yeah, we
I'm
can,
not sure.
we can answer some questions.
Okay, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to
it's fine.
preempt.
Yeah, we still have
So
time.
everybody has a question, please
Yeah.
send it
We
over.
have time.
We have a small group, but thank you for being here. I want to say hi to my son. Thank you for being here, son. He's supporting his mama.
Well done, Mom.
Good stuff.
Yeah, hi, hello, and thank you for this session. My name is Emily Pimentel, and I recently retired. Yes, Marcy. And I've had a career, you know, where, first of all, let me tell you a little origin story too. My parents come from Veracruz. And that is a beautiful ocean culture, you know.
Yes, it is.
And that's what really sort of drove me to my career in the marine ecology area. And I recently retired from the Environmental Protection Agency, and that's
Thank
where-
you for your work.
Thanks.
Thank you for your service.
Thanks. But this is where I met Marce's work and met many people who work in the Tijuana area on some really beautiful ocean-friendly practices, as it turns out. So I guess I just want to encourage and ask, there's Green Latinos, as an organization, but they really have a different vision and mission in terms of what they're doing. I'm curious if, there's an opportunity.
Latino outdoors too.
And Latino Outdoors, I've invited them to EPA actually to speak. Believe me, I was looking for all the Latinos out there in the environment, and it would be great, I guess I'd ask, to create some sort of a red, for that, and just invite you to consider that. And now that I'm retired, I'm not retired from work.
You're
doing
rewired.
this.
That's what I did. I rewired from the aquarium,
Yeah.
so now you're rewired.
Yes, so, and a little story that it was difficult for me to get into the environment. It was a very kind of look that you had to have, and I didn't have that look. And so it was difficult to find my way. I will say one thing, that I did volunteer for Sylvia Earle, and she helped open, confidence in me when I was a graduate student. So there are wonderful people, out there. So anyway, I thank you, and I'd love to hear, maybe what
I
we
think
can
you
do
guys
further.
need to connect after the panel, exchange contact info. Thank you.
If I could just add to that, I think an event would be an amazing opportunity. We talked about doing this, we're already talking about doing this again next year, and hopefully maybe having this panel on Saturday afternoon at 3:30, and then moving into a fiesta. What?
Pachanga.
Pachanga.
Well, and everybody has
Latin
to
food.
bring your enclaves.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So this is just the kickoff, this is just the beginning. There's another group called Brown Girls Surf, which is very, very.
Salted Roots.
Salted Roots now.
Oh, what is the
Salted
Salted Roots.
Roots, oh, that's right.
Salted
That's
Roots,
right.
yeah.
That's right, I forgot about that. Yeah, so go ahead. I think maybe Sebastian wants to
Yeah,
say one
Sebastian.
thing real quick.
No, I think absolutely, that connecting and showing the examples, whether they're organizations or individuals that have gone through the pathway, I think is so needed, and I'd love nothing more than a Notions Fiesta and bring together the community and build on each other's strengths to keep sumando más, no? Bring everyone together and join the effort.
Because there is a critical mass, by the way. So like you go to conferences and like I'll wear my Latinos Marinos pin and people like, oh my God, there's not like a affinity space for us. And usually what it is like, our party with the live band. But in the end, whatever group speaks to you, if that is the group that like moves you to pick up the phone and do something, that's the group for you. That's the important part here. Like, yes, there's some of us that are focused on that or focused on this other thing, but in the end, wherever and whatever moves you is the path for you. I think that's the important part.
Hi, I'm Mary Feeney, and so one thing I have about the Sacramento, April 28th, are you fundraising for people that can't afford to get to Sacramento to offer transportation, and especially young people, especially?
So, the answer to that question is always yes.
Yeah, of course,
Yes. So you could probably go to Sudaro for that. We have our Latinos Marinos cohort, which we bring people from all over the state. We organize buses, we organize plane rides, we organize, and there's an actual training that's about to start. So we want to make sure that people come in groups with very experienced group leaders. And we have a luncheon as well where we give out the awards and recognition. We have, I think our youngest Latinos Marinos has been like 8 years old with their parents. So like we want to, no, actually 4 years old. So we want to bring people and again.
Baby Marinos.
Yeah, baby Marinos, there you go. Like, Yes, like that is the logistics manager in me. I am always focused on like how we actually move people into the Capitol, into these meetings. So if you feel moved to support that, yes, but I think we need to grow that, for sure.
And yeah, I have some more to say. If everything that was in my head, oh my God, it will take more than 15 minutes.
Well, they've just we were given the 15-minute
Yeah,
mark.
right, we just got the 15 minutes. Yeah. So I consider myself a citizen of the universe. I had a friend that was an astronaut. She tragically died in the space shuttle. But she said that was what she was. And I feel that way too. I mean, I feel comfortable with a lot of people. And you know what? I was thinking too, I'm short. And that really is wonderful that I can give people that are kind of pushed aside eye contact.
Yeah.
And we may not be able to speak the same language, but it's really, it's amazing. And so I'm also in an advisory council with Pesca Blue, which is working on, do you know it?
I've heard of it.
Yeah, so we're working in Baja and Gulf of California.
It's called Pesca Blue.
Pesca Blue, and helping, so it kind of started with that turtles were bycatch of the netting, and then it was educating the fishers about how not to either discard or sell those turtles, and that there's other ways for them to make money with fishing. So that's, and then tying into having their fish that they catch into a sustainable market that's supported in Baja. So Pesca Blue and Stephanie Russo, who has come here to the Ocean Film Festival, and been
Another org for Anna to keep
Yeah.
to the
Yeah,
for
Melissa.
next.
right.
going.
And then I'm going to have Lexi here to connect with her so she can do a film with her. There you go.
Thank you so
That's all
much
I know.
thank you. And your message is very important and it's very true about the universality. I mean, we just had the Artemis II crew land, and the message that they had for us when they first started to talk yesterday was when they were out there in the moon looking down, it's like, oh, this was all the crew. The crew was the people on Earth. So it was a very powerful. So thank you for reminding me of that.
And I will tell you that, like, the ocean as a connector, right? One of the things that keeps coming up, talking to people with us, especially with immigrant communities, is that they'll tell you, oh, you know what? The same ocean that I grew up in Guerrero is the Pacific Ocean that is here also in
No
in
borders.
California.
The ocean
Right,
has
so
no
it's
borders.
that connector.
It's the connector.
Is there a question?
Questions? Oh.
And one small question. First of all, this is a beautiful program. I know it's so in line with what Anna builds with community throughout her volunteers and just bringing in individuals who want to see changes made. If you would, just tell me how to spell Pesca Blue, because I was searching for it and I can't find it. And you had mentioned another platform for the coastal, California coastal.
The California State, what do you?
The
wait.
California Coastal Conservancy.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, and Pesca Blue is Pesca, Pesca Blue. So, and if I could bring it back just to the films real quickly, you know, one of the things I love about the films, Mary was talking about a fisherman. There's a lot of humanity in the films. It's not just about, you know, the whales and the sharks and the fishies. We get a lot of films about people who have made a difference in the ocean, and one of them is a gentleman who used to be a sea turtle eggs. He used to
The eggs.
poach the eggs.
Because we know that the myth goes that it's Mother Nature's Viagra.
Exactly.
It's the turtle eggs.
And, you know, somehow he met other people, he worked with other organizations, and he changed his life, and there's a really good film about him, a short 5-minute film, and he is now working for an ecotourism company in Mexico. He's been doing it for like many, many years. And he just, he radiates joy knowing that he is now taking care of the ocean. And we've probably showed it, I don't know, 100 times in our traveling program. So there are messages like that. There's a lot of human messages in the films that talk about people who are making a difference and change their lives. And as I'm sitting here, I'm just thinking about all of them, and I want everyone to see them again. You know, The Weekend Sailor, I don't know if you guys ever saw that. It was done by Bernardo Arzuaga. You know, he lived in Monterrey, Mexico. He found out about the story of I can't remember the man's name, but he, Ricardo Carlin, I think was his name. But he was the first Mexican to sail around the world on the Whitbread before it became the global sailing trend. Remember?
Yeah.
And we showed that at the Roxy, I don't know, 2017, 2016, and it was amazing. You know, we had so many Latin people in the community wanting to see this film, and we've shown it a million times. It's a fantastic film. I think I'm going to put it back up online so people can watch it. And Bernardo's like, Anna, show it as many times as you want to.
Yeah, people don't remember everything, so you can recycle. Like, we're going to come back and maybe say the same things next year, and they'll be all around you.
Another audience, so, yeah.
Oh, question, yes.
One example on that is last night, speaking to a volunteer who was an usher at one of the films. She mentioned a film that was also shown in 2017 that she had produced, and it was her film, and I had seen it at your festival, and it's terrific to just read, recycle, share, continue to share those messages too. So
Yeah,
it's great.
repurpose, recycle. I mean, it's all in theme, right?
Yeah, it's all in the theme.
It's all in the
It
theme.
is,
So
exactly.
regenerate. It's like the regenerative.
Yeah, it's a circular economy.
Yeah. And remind people that, you know, to tell a story. You know, people always ask me, what do you want people to take away from the film festival? And, you know, all the stories, all the messages, you know, all the ways you can take action. And the one thing I always try to tell people, just tell a story about the ocean. That's the thing that surprises me though, is how many different, you know, subject matters there are in our films, whether it's deep sea mining or coral reefs or parrotfish or kelp, whatever. If just get out there and tell your story about the ocean. It doesn't have to be film, it could be music, it could be art.
Well,
you know, it
in
could
Clave and in El Mar, I do want to encourage people, if you have Spotify, please find in El Mar.
And actually, you can just go to enelmar.org because there's also an anthology of essays that goes with every single
So
song.
enelmar.org, and it's a beautiful soundtrack, which I downloaded for my Spotify, and it's like a delightful, joyful compendium of music, which is a cool album to have. And it was shortlisted for a Grammy. Latin Grammy. So it's pretty cool. So I think we're going to close it out. And I want to thank our panelists. Thank you, Anna, Sebastian, and Marce. Thank you to our small but mighty audience. So thank you, and we'll see you next year.
Thank you so much.
Or in 2 weeks in Sacramento.
Happy birthday, Anna. Feliz cumpleaños.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Anna. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
How are you?
Thank you.